Hello and welcome to this short session on bank fixed deposits. Many of us consider bank fixed deposit as an avenue for parking our surplus funds. But do we know how much do we actually earn on a bank fixed deposit? So let us now start with a story. Ganesh invested rupees 1 lakh in a fixed deposit scheme offered by a bank for 3 years. He opted for reinvestment of interest, which is known as a cumulative fixed deposit. So what happens in a cumulative fixed deposit is no interest payment is made in between, and the entire interest for the 3-year period or for the period of deposit is paid to the deposit holder along with the principal amount at the end of the tenor of the deposit. So let us assume that Ganesh invested 1 lakh rupees and the number of years for which he has invested is 3. The bank was paying interest of 6% per annum on fixed deposit. Now Ganesh knew how to compute the maturity value of his fixed deposit using whatever finance he has learned in his college days. So he has used a formula which is maturity value is equal to investment multiplied by 1 plus r to the power of n. Here, r is the rate of interest and n is the number of years. So in Ganesh's case, investment will be 1 lakh, r is 6% and n is 3. Applying this formula, the maturity value was calculated by Ganesh as 1 lakh multiplied by 1 plus 0.06. Please note that the interest rate in this formula is expressed in terms of decimals. So 6% is written as 0.06. So 1 lakh multiplied by 1 plus 0.06 to the power of 3 is 1,19,102. So Ganesh calculated this value and he was expecting to get 1,19,102 at the end of 3 years. But when Ganesh got the fixed deposit receipt from the bank, he was surprised to see the maturity value mentioned there as rupees 1,19,562. Why was the bank paying more to Ganesh? Ganesh had calculated a smaller amount and the amount mentioned in the bank fixed deposit receipt was slightly more than what he had calculated. The answer to this lies in frequency of compounding. Now, what does that mean? Frequency of compounding refers to how many times interest is computed in a year. So if it is semi-annual compounding, frequency is 2, and if it is quarterly compounding, frequency is 4. Now, what does this mean? That means if you are investing an amount for a 1-year period, your first interest calculation will be done at the end of 6 months for a semi-annual compounding. And for the second 6 months period, you will be paid interest not only on the principal, but on the interest calculated at the end of first 6 months period. This is what is called frequency of compounding. Ganesh compounded the maturity value assuming annual compounding. So the formula that Ganesh used assumed that compounding is done only once a year, whereas most of the banks follow quarterly compounding for fixed deposits with maturity of more than 6 months. That means if you invest in a reinvestment fixed deposit or a cumulative fixed deposit where you don't want to receive interest in between, and if the maturity is more than 6 months, normally banks use a quarterly compounded interest rate. That means the deposit holder ends up getting a higher rate of interest than what is announced or advertised by the bank. Let us call this actually what the investor is getting. Let us call this as effective rate of interest. Now, how do we compute this effective rate of interest? The effective rate is computed by making a small change to the formula that Ganesh had used in the beginning. So the effective rate is equal to 1 plus r by m to the power of m minus 1. Here, M is the number of compounding done in a year. So if you have quarterly compounding, M will be 4 because every quarter the compounding happens. Now let us compute the effective rate for 6% with quarterly compounding. What will be the effective rate? 1 plus 0.06 divided by 4 to the power of 4 minus 1, which comes to 0.061364. Converted to percentage, it is 6.1364%. What does this mean? Even if the bank announces the rate or advertises the rate as 6% per annum, because of quarterly compounding, the investor actually gets slightly more. The investor gets 6.1364%. Now let us use the above rate for computing maturity value of Ganesh fixed deposit. So now I am going to use not 6% in Ganesh's formula, I am going to use 6.1364%. So if I take 1 lakh into 1 plus 0.061364 to the power of 3, I will get rupees 1,19,562. There we go. This is the amount of maturity shown on the fixed deposit receipt of Ganesh. Let us take one more example. I have shown here the interest rates offered by HDFC Bank on fixed deposits of various maturities. Let us look at the 2-year and above fixed deposit. HDFC Bank offers 5.15% per annum for fixed deposit with 2 years maturity. The effective rate with quarterly compounding works out to be just like we did in the earlier case. Let us calculate it. 1 plus 0.0515 divided by 4 to the power of 4 minus 1, which is 0.052503, or expressed in percentages, it becomes 5.2503%. So next time you see the interest rates offered or advertised by a bank, remember you will be getting slightly more than what is offered by the bank. Thank you for watching this video.